Hello students, welcome to our next session of English grammar. In our last few sessions, we have studied about main verbs, helping verbs and all about tenses. We have studied all the 12 tenses, their formulas and their uses. We have also studied the three kinds of sentences into which all the tenses can be changed. The three kinds of tenses which I told you during tenses were the affirmative sentence, the negative sentence and the interrogative sentence. All the 12 tenses that we have learned so far can be made in all the three forms which we have learned. Today our topic is active and passive voice. It is definitely related to the tenses that we have done so far. The tenses which we did so far, the 12 tenses, were nothing else but the active voice of tenses. यानी कि जितने भी 12 tenses हमने अब तक पढ़े हैं, उन tenses को हम active voice tenses भी बोल सकते हैं because they are always the same in active voice, or when we learn the plain tenses, tenses are an active voice, or we can say active voice are nothing else but the tenses. However, the rule changes when we talk about converting a sentence of active voice into passive voice. There are basic changes, there are basic rules to be memorized and learned, and it becomes very easy for all of us to convert a sentence of active voice into passive voice. Okay children, so now let's start with the active voice of present tense. We begin with simple present tense. As we have already learned the formula of present tense, the formula of present tense was, and or I can say is subject plus V1 plus object. Of course, that was the basic formula. And I also told you, when do we use simple present tense? For things that are all time true, for things that is a habit of someone, for things that we talk about in our daily routine, for scientific facts, for naturally occurring phenomena. For all these things, we always use simple present tense. How is it changed into passive voice? Let's see here. Subject plus V1 plus object. It is converted into passive voice by adding all the helping verbs of present continuous tense in simple present tense passive voice. Along with this, the verb form also changes. You always have to remember that the verb form in passive voice is always V3. You can see whatever formula we are going to learn, it is going to always have the verb form V3 in it. Now, the formula for subject plus V1 plus object over here becomes subject plus is, am, are. All of them are the helping verbs of present continuous tense. We select their use based on the subject. So, subject plus is, am, are plus V3 plus object. But this is not the only case to be remembered. There is one more most important thing that you need to remember is here the object of active voice becomes the subject in passive voice. This is the most important thing to be remembered. That means the object of active voice changes its position and comes into the position of subject when we change the subject into passive voice. Subject or object always interchange the position when they are from active to passive voice. Let's read the example. Ram likes ice creams. Now this is a very nice example, a very simple example where Ram is the subject, likes is your V1 verb and ice cream is the object. To remind, what is a subject in the sentence? Subject is normally the doer of the action or the thing about which we are talking about. Then what is the object? Object is that thing or that person that receives the action. That is, so here Ram is doing the action of liking, and what is he liking? Ice cream. So ice cream here is the object. So a sentence Ram likes ice cream becomes See, ice cream was the object over here. It becomes subject in case of passive voice of simple present tense. Ice cream. Now since it is singular, it takes the helping verb is. I told you the helping verb is selected based on the type of subject is there in the passive voice. If it is singular, it will take is. If it is plural, it will take are. So it is singular over here, so it will ice cream is. Now V3 form of the verb like is liked. Ice cream is liked, yes, and the most important thing that we do is ice cream is liked by Ram. Now when we add the subject in the passive voice, we always put the word by Ram. Whatever was the subject in the active voice is written with the word by as an object in passive voice. I guess the example is very clear. Now let's see to the other example. Boys clean the table. Now in the passive voice it will become the table is cleaned by boys. Quite simple it is. Now let's come to the next tense of present tense, that is present continuous tense. The formula for present continuous tense was very clear to all of you when we studied the tenses. It is simple. Subject plus is MR. What are they? They are the helping verbs which we use in the continuous tense. As already told, all the continuous tense use the verb form V4. What is V4? V4 are the ing forms of the verbs which are always used in all the continuous tense of 12 tenses. Okay, so here the formula is subject plus the helping verbs of present tense, V4 form and the object. Now let's see how does it changes into passive voice. Here again the same interchange become. The object again becomes the subject in case of passive voice of continuous tense also. Now subject plus is am are remains the same. The only thing what you have to add over here is the word being, and as I told you earlier, all the passive voice sentences take the form V3 and then the object. What is this object? The subject of active voice has become the object in passive voice. Now let's see the example. Children are flying kites. Of course, the sentence is in continuation. That means children are flying kite at the moment of telling. How will we change it into passive voice? Kite will become the subject. Kites, since it is plural, are वैसे का वैसा रहेगा. Kites are, and what did I say? We are going to add being. Kites are being. Flying का third form क्या हो जाता है? Flown. Kites are being flown. और यहाँ पे हमारा सब्जेक्ट क्या था? चिल्ड्रन, जो कि वहाँ लगेगा, लेकिन एज आई टोल्ड यू अर्लियर वो हमेशा किसके साथ लग जाता है? बाय के साथ में. सो द सेंटेंस बिकम्स वेरी सिंपल. काइट्स आर बीइंग फ्लोन बाय द चिल्ड्रन. सो फ्लाइंग का थर्ड फॉर्म बीइंग लग गया. ओके, अब मैं आपको इसको याद रखने की एक टिप बताती हूँ. लाइक वी ऑल नो, V4 क्या होता है? ING फॉर्म. तो ING फॉर्म वाले जितने भी सेंटेंसेस होंगे, चाहे वो प्रेजेंट कंटिन्यूअस का होगा, चाहे वो पास्ट कंटिन्यूअस का होगा या फ्यूचर कंटिन्यूअस का होगा, ऑल द सेंटेंसेस विद ING फॉर्म विल टेक द वर्ड BEING. अब इसको याद रखने का तरीका ये है कि ING फॉर्म ऑफ वर्ब्स में भी ING लगता है, ऑफ कोर्स लगता ही है. तो इसमें जो एडिशनल वर्ड हम लगाते हैं वो वर्ड भी ING वाला ही होता है. Normally, there are two be words in the passive voice. One is being and the other we are going to study just now, that is been. तो being जो है उसमें ING verb है and it is added in the passive voice of continuous tense. ING जो कि active में भी लगता था और वही ING word जो be के साथ passive में लगता है. So this is how we change present continuous tense into passive voice of present continuous tense. Now we are talking about the present perfect tense. Now again the formula was very obvious and clear to us. Subject plus have oblique has plus V3 plus object. Like before, again the object of active voice becomes the subject in passive voice. In case of perfect tense, have or has लगता है, that is remained as it is, but what is additional that we add over here is the word B-E-E-N, been. And then again the V3 form and the object that was subject in case of active voice. So now let's see the example. I have done my homework. Now, can you read the passive voice of that sentence? That's very clear and very easy. My homework. Now, यहाँ पे you can see I के साथ हमने have लगाया था because we have learned it in our very first and the second lecture that I belongs to the plural group of subject and we always use have with it. With all the plurals, we always use have. With all the singulars, we always use has. अब जब हमने इसमें अल्टा पल्टी करी, सब्जेक्ट और ऑब्जेक्ट ने एक दूसरे को रिप्लेस किया, तब क्या हुआ? आई चला गया उस तरफ और होमवर्क आ गया इस तरफ. तो होमवर्क जब यहाँ पे आ गया, तो होमवर्क इज अ सिंगुलर सब्जेक्ट एंड इंस्टेड ऑफ हैव वी हैव written has over here, which is in accordance to the subject, which is singular over here. My homework has, correct, been add कर दिया, done. Now done जो है वो यहाँ पे same रहेगा because it was already V3 here, तो V3 का V3 maintained here, yes. लेकिन I जो है वो subject case pronoun है. जब हम उसको object में change करते हैं तो I'm just marking it circular. I is always changed into me when it changes from subject to object. So what does my sentence become now? My homework has been done by me. Isn't it simple? Now let's take another example. John has paid the bill. Now what will be the answer? The bill, since it is singular, has ही रहेगा. The bill has been paid by John. कुछ भी सोचना नहीं पड़ता है. You just have to remember that in all the perfect tenses, the passive voice takes the additional word been with it. In all the continuous tense, the passive voice takes the additional word being with it. In present tense, in simple present tense, it only takes the helping verb. And verb form, it is common in all the tenses, V3, V3 and V3. Now coming to the last present perfect continuous tense, we already know the formula. It is subject plus have plus or have plus been plus V4 and object. For example, I have been teaching tenses or I have been teaching English since my first lecture. Now, after this, here, since my first lecture, we all know when did it happen? That was the sentence of present perfect continuous. यानी कि फर्स्ट लेक्चर से पढ़ाना चालू किया था, तब से अब तक आपको पढ़ाना चालू है और अभी भी चल रहा है. That is the meaning or the usage point of present perfect continuous tense. Now, present perfect continuous tense can never be changed into passive voice. So this is what you need to remember, that perfect continuous tense. अभी हम आगे भी पढ़ेंगे. Perfect continuous tense of present, past and future does not has their passive voice. It is always written only and only in active voice. So I guess all the present forms of passive voice are clear to all of you. I'll just give you some time. You can note down these examples or take a screenshot of all these examples of present tense passive voice. Okay. So children, I guess you're clear with all the four forms of passive voice for present tense. Simple present, present continuous, present perfect, and we do not have any passive voice for present perfect continuous. Now let's start with the active and the passive voice of past tense. To start with, what is the formula for past simple tense? the formula for past simple tense, as we have already studied, is subject plus second form of verb and object. It also changes in the similar manner like we have done for simple present tense. It changes into, here again, the object of active voice becomes the subject of passive voice. As I told you, the helping verbs of the continuous tense are transferred into the passive voice of simple tense. Then, as it is a universal rule that the verb form is always going to be the V3, and the subject again turns into the object of passive voice. The subject of active voice becomes the object of passive voice. Now let's see the example. Ravi played the guitar. Here Ravi was the subject because Ravi did the action of playing. Now here Ravi played the guitar. Ravi played what? Guitar. Guitar is what? The subject. Here, for the sake of convenience, we have not added the time phrase to make it more clear with the passive voice. But when we study tenses, I told you it is only the time phrase that makes you differentiate, that enables you to differentiate a sentence of simple past tense from a sentence of present perfect tense. But here, for the sake of convenience, we are not adding time phrase here. It is the verb form which is automatically telling us that the sentence is of simple past tense. So, Ravi played the guitar. Now, let's see what happens here. Guitar is the object. Now, here guitar word, becomes the subject over here. The guitar, it is singular, was played by Ravi. For example, I taught tenses yesterday. Tenses were taught by me yesterday. So, it is similar to this sentence. Another sentence of simple past tense. Police caught the thief. Without looking, very easily we can change. The thief singular है, इसलिए क्या लगाया हमने? Was. The thief was caught by the police. We can say by police or by the police. Both the ways it is clear. Correct. Now coming to past continuous tense. The formula for past continuous tense was subject plus was oblique were plus V4 plus object. All the continuous tense, I told you, always take the verb form V4, and V4 are the verb forms which have ing in them. Now let's take the example. She was writing a letter. But before we convert it into the passive form, the formula is also changed in the similar form like we had changed in present continuous passive form. The helping verb remains the same. The object of active is changed into the subject of passive, and the word being is always added in the continuous form of the passive voice. So here the being word is added, verb form as usual remains V3, and then we have object. So the sentence she was writing a letter becomes a letter was being, writing का V3 क्या बन जाएगा? Written. A letter was being written, और she जो कि हमारा subject pronoun है, whenever subject pronoun is changed into the object pronoun, it changes into the object case pronoun, that is called as her over here. She was writing a letter becomes a letter was being written by her. Okay. Now let's take another example. Hunter was shooting the lion. Again it's very easy. The lion, which is the object here, becomes the subject here. Since it is singular, was, the word being is added. The V3 form of shooting becomes shot by the hunter. So again it's very easy. Again the tip to learn, which I had told you earlier also, again I am telling you that in continuous tense we use V4 form. V4 form has the suffix ing, and in the passive forms of continuous tense we add the word being, which also has ing in it. तो याद रखने के लिए ये बहुत ज़्यादा सिंपल फंडा है कि continuous forms has ing verbs and the passive forms of continuous tense also has the word being, which also has ing in it. Isn't it very simple to remember? So yes. Moving ahead to past perfect tense. What is past perfect tense as we had earlier studied? Subject plus had plus V3 plus object. Now here again the formula in passive voice for past perfect becomes subject had remains the same, and as I told you earlier also in present perfect the word been is added over here. Verb form remains the same and the object. Now let's see to the example. They had won the match. Now the match becomes the subject over here. The match had been won. अब यहाँ पे भी आप देख सकते हो they is the subject pronoun and they always change into them when it is used in the object place. ये pronoun change के rule है which are very simple. Everyone knows. He changes into him, she changes into her, they changes into them, and I change into me. So here it is they. Another sentence, he had collected the coins. The answer is the coins had been collected by, sorry, again there's a mistake over here, I'll just correct it. It is not them. Here it will be the coins had been collected by him. Why? Because the subject was he over here, which will change into him in the passive voice of the perfect tense. Now coming to the last tense, past perfect continuous tense. The formula which we had already studied, subject plus had been plus V4 plus the sentence. I had been teaching English when my teacher, when my friend called me. I had been teaching English when you called. Means when something else had happened at that time, some other action was in continuation. Here I was talking about the action which was in continuation in at a point of time in past, but it stopped when the other action happened. The other action was calling by the friend and the previous action was the action of teaching being done by me. As I told you in my past class that past perfect continuous is used for two action. One action in continuation till the second happens. The second action automatically works as the time for the first action, and when the second action happens, the continuation of the first action stops. So this is the use of past perfect continuous tense. Okay, so this was the example, but in passive voice, we do not have passive voices for perfect continuous tense. So this is how we are done with all the four forms of past tense. So after present and past, we will be studying the future tense, active and passive voice. So let's start with simple future tense. As we know, the formula for simple future tense is subject plus will plus V1 plus object. Similarly, in the passive voice of future simple tense, the helping verb will be transferred. Will के साथ में be लगता है in future continuous tense. ये जो be होता है, like in simple present and simple past, we transfer this be to the passive voice of simple future tense. Then the verb form remains V3 and the object like we did before. To understand, we take an example. He will do his duty. यहाँ पे he is the subject, will is the helping verb over here, do is the V1 form, and his duty here is the object. Similarly, like we did in the earlier tenses, the object of active voice change into the subject of passive voice. So his duty will be written as subject over there. His duty will be. The third form of do is done. Do, did and done. He will do his duty. His duty will be. देखिए आप ये दोनों साथ में लग गया. The third form of do is done, and see again the pronoun he has become him in case of future tense, and as I told earlier, we always use the word be for object in passive voice. So his duty will be done by him. For example, Ravi will sing a song. What will it be in passive voice? Very easy. A song will be sung by Ravi. I will go to market tomorrow. Market will be gone by me tomorrow. Very simple. So, the tenses in passive voice are as simple as these. Okay, another example. They will invite us. Again, here it will become. Now see, this us over here is the object pronoun, and when us changes into subject, it becomes we. And similarly, the they, which was the word they, which is again a pronoun over here, when it changes into object, it again changes into them. So here us बन जाता है we में और they बन जाता है them में, और पूरी चीज रिवर्स होके they will invite us becomes we will be invited by them. Isn't it so simple? Now let's take another example. Sita will buy a new dress. A new dress will be bought by Sita. Wasn't it so simple? Moving to the continuous tense of future. She subject plus will be plus V4, as I already told you that all the continuous tense take the verb form V4 plus object. Let's take the example. I will be teaching a new topic in my next class. That's true also, isn't it? But this sentence cannot be converted into passive voice, and this you need to remember. Future continuous tense does not has passive voice like past continuous and present continuous tense. So, it has only active voice. Now moving to future perfect tense. The formula for future perfect tense was subject plus will have plus V3 plus object. Let's take an example. The boys will have painted the picture. As I told you, in all the perfect tense, what is the word which we have already added? Which we have always added actually? It is the word B-double-E and been. Similarly, we will add this word in future tense passive voice also. So here, boys subject था, picture object था, ये reverse हो जाएगा in case of passive voice. So see, my answer will be picture will have been painted by the boys. Can we think of another answer? I will have completed my class. My class will have been completed by me in next 20 minutes. So, I have added the time for the clarification. So, this is how future perfect tense has the passive voice of future perfect tense. We have just added the word been. Can we think of some other example? Ravi will have sung a song. A song will have been sung by Ravi. That would have been the passive voice of this example. Now coming to future perfect continuous tense. The formula we have already studied is subject plus will have plus being plus V4 plus object. The boys will have been playing at their college. This sentence is very clear with future continuous tense, future perfect continuous tense, and like future continuous tense, this tense also do not have any passive voice. So these are the two tenses in future tense which do not have their passive voice. But this is how, children, I guess you are clear about all the passive voice of all the 12 tenses to remember with. Now let me tell you some very important facts which you need to remember. That is all the perfect tenses. Perfect tenses means all the perfect continuous tense. Perfect continuous tense of past, present and future. They have no passive. So these three plus future continuous tense. These are the four tenses which remain the same in the passive voice also. Or we can say there is no passive voice for these four tenses. They remain as it is. We cannot convert them. Remaining all the other tenses can be converted as per the formula given by me. So to recap, I guess you all are clear. Let me take I teach English. English is taught by me. I am teaching English. English is being taught by me. I have taught English. English have been, sorry, it was singular. English has been taught by me. Perfect continuous, no sentence. Coming to the past. Ravi ate an ice cream. An ice cream was eaten by Ravi. Ravi was eating an ice cream. An ice cream was being eaten by Ravi. Ravi had eaten an ice cream. An ice cream had been eaten by Ravi, and there was no perfect continuous tense for past tense also. For future tense, Ravi will paint a picture. A picture will be painted by Ravi. Ravi will have painted a picture. This is future perfect continuous tense, and this will become a picture will have been painted by Ravi. Wasn't that so simple? And we have not made any example for future continuous and future perfect continuous tense. This is how we complete with the active and passive voice of all the 12 tenses. In the next session, we will be studying about the passive voice of imperative sentences and the passive voice for interrogative sentences. They have altogether different rules, and we shall be studying about it in our next lecture. Till then, stay tuned and study about these rules.